Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of the ForneverWorld podcast. I am your host, ForneverWorld, alongside my co-host and very good friend, Daniel Santos.
What's up? Glad to be back.
Yeah, we killing them, baby. Three episodes in. Feeling good about the pod so far. How you feeling about this journey we've been starting, Shintai?
I feel like it's getting better and better, man. I feel like the more we do it, the better it's gonna get.
Yeah, the first episode, a little how can you say, is I guess tricky because we had that long laundry list. Second episode, I think we've been stepping it up, and hopefully this third episode we can knock it out the park.
Hell yeah.
So I guess let's start off with what you've been enjoying throughout the week, what you've been watching or listening to or any of that jazz.
All right, so I listened to The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance for the first time. Now, this is an older album, and I avoided it for so long because it had that stigma, the emo movement, you know? Like, I'm sure you remember back in, like, the mid-2000s, you know, there was, like, the whole emo thing. And yeah. At the time, I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, you know, it wasn't for me. It wasn't my thing. But a friend of mine was like, no, this album is really good. Give it a chance. So I was like, okay, all right. I listened to it and I fucking loved it. It was a fantastic album because I was expecting it to be low energy, you know, like sad, depressing. It was none of that. It was like energetic and it was happy and it was like, you know, rocking, and I couldn't believe it. Now, like the music I normally listen to is stuff like Dream Theater, Hawken, Leprous, Opeth. You know, that's like the, you know, like the big ones for me. Or Devin Townsend, that's like the big five for me. Like those are my favorite bands and musicians. You know, so I like really heavy and technical and like fast music, and you know, that's why I was so against listening to emo music, because, you know, to me it was like the opposite of all that. But My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade was a fantastic album. Really loved it. So
it's funny,
if you were like me and you felt the same, I say give it a chance. It might change your mind.
It's funny you say about like emo music and stuff, and normally for a long time I'll listen to like Joe Budden, his mood music series, which people would argue that's like emo rap and stuff like that, and that was my go-to, especially when I had like real life issues and stuff. My method was just, I would always put on like, oh, I'm gonna listen to some mood music, or the All Love Lost album by Joe Budden. But nowadays, to be honest with you, I more so kind of tend to stay away. And again, I know it's a different case because you said that this album in particular was just not on that lower vibe or whatnot, but I would notice that like whatever, because I'm very passionate about music. Like music with me, it goes hand in hand. It's like that's one of my first loves. People know, you know, I made music and stuff like that. But when I would listen to a lot of those mood music albums or mixtapes, whatever, and you know, a lot of Joe Budden stuff just in general, because that's like a lot of where I get my emo quote unquote music from, it would put me in a like a worse place, in a dark place. And you know, for the longest time I used to feel like, nah, I'm working out my problems by listening to this stuff. But to be honest with you, I would sometimes feel 10 times worse even after, because like it would make me feel more like enclosed in that vibe. So nowadays I'll still listen from time to time, but for the most part I try and steer away, just because music really can alter a mood. Like you listen to something that is upbeat while you're working out, you feel like you can lift a building. You listen to some depressing shit while you are depressed, you will feel really depressed.
I totally agree. In fact, I was listening to this album when I was running on the treadmill, and like a perfect album for that, because it's got that high energy, you know, it keeps it pretty consistent for most of the album. There are a few slow songs here and there, but most of the album is just like, you know, fast and, you know, perfect for running.
Any anime watching or manga reading throughout the week?
I like I promised last week. I watched some Cowboy Bebop. Hopefully by the next episode I would have finished it, but I have started my rewatch, and honestly, the show is as good as I remember. Like I was a little bit worried going into like, oh, maybe because it's been like 20 years almost since I've seen Cowboy Bebop. It's been a long time. Yeah, I saw it when it was first airing on Adult Swim. Like, it's fair to say that like if Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z and Gundam Wing, if those were the first animes I watched, then Cowboy Bebop was the first anime that got me into anime.
Right, yeah.
So like it's been a long time. So I was a little bit worried, like, am I still gonna like it? Does it still hold up? And I've seen up to like episode 5 or 6, and honestly, I'm still really enjoying it. The music is fantastic.
That ending, that da na 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 na. Yeah, the music and
the real folk blues. Fantastic. And the animation, like I'm watching it on a Blu-ray, and like it looks so good. Like it is beautiful.
I didn't know that they released it on Blu-ray. So is it like a full-on like a remaster like they did with the Yu Yu Hakusho Blu-rays, or?
I think so, because it looks super clean. It looks super crisp. It's beautiful. Like it looks amazing. And like it helps that the original show already looked amazing, but like seeing it in clean, crisp, like high definition, and they didn't crop it or zoom in and put 16:9. None of that. They kept the same aspect ratio.
You say that, I immediately think of Dragon Ball Z, the orange brick box sets. Oh gosh.
That's what I was thinking of too. That's why I brought it up.
Oh man, shit, that's pretty dope.
They didn't mess with it, so it looks amazing. And dude, the dub, holy shit! Like I thought, like, oh, dubs have come so far since then. It probably doesn't hold up. Dude, that dub is still amazing. Like that dub is the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. Like
Steve Bloom, right? Plays as Spike.
Bloom? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Same
voice
actor as Tom.
It was one of his earliest roles, and he killed it. He killed it. Like, because he does such a good job with Spike's character. Because the thing with Spike is that it's supposed to be hard to tell sometimes, if Spike is being facetious or if he's being serious. Like, he's kind of a jokester, but at the same time, you can tell that like he's carrying a lot of weight. He's seen some shit, and that you can see that like some of his like more jovial stuff that he does is kind of a facade. It's not real, and he does that to kind of hide the fact that he's seen so much shit. And I think Steve Blum does a great job of getting that across.
It reminds me of Vash the Stampede from Trigun, like kind of similar aspects in a way, or even a Gintoki from Gintama, although Gintoki is like the biggest troll in the world, so maybe that's a little bit different. But yeah, I love those type of characters. I think they have a fine balance of giving you the facade, but then there's layers, and you like to explore those layers as the series continues.
No, yeah, absolutely. And like, while with Vash is more over the top, right? Like that's just how the tone of the show is, a little more like over the top and crazy. And with Bebop, it's more subdued. But it's like a similar idea where like, I think the trope is called crouching dumbass, hidden badass. I think
like
that
a
applies.
Master Roshi.
yeah, exactly. I think it applies more to Vash compared to Spike, but Spike a little bit, in that like, he messes around, he jokes, but he could beat the shit out of you.
Yeah,
But,
pretty awesome
yeah.
character from a legendary series. It's so interesting that Cowboy Bebop is so highly regarded and popular in the West and in the US especially, but in Japan it's not really like, it's just like an anime, you know, it happened. It's not like over here where people are like, oh, Cowboy Bebop.
I think it's important to understand the context of when Cowboy Bebop came out, right? Like the reason I would say that for Japan it kind of came and went. Well, for one, I would say that it's not something that is very appealing to a Japanese audience. You know, maybe that's presumptuous of me to say, but like I feel like what makes Bebop...
Shintai canceled. He just made some presumptuous.
I'm canceled. That's it. I'm done. I can't be co-host no more. You have to replace me. It's done.
Oh shit.
But I feel like what the things that makes Bebop what it is much more appealing to a Western audience. But even beyond that, I think again it's really important to understand that when Bebop came out, there was literally like anime was in its infancy in the West at the time. So
right.
Imagine, because like I was like in 5th grade when I first saw Bebop. So imagine you're like 13 years old and you watch something like Bebop, it blows your goddamn mind.
Yeah,
Like literally.
The realism that's separated from like the series that were coming out at the time is like you have something unimaginable like Dragon Ball Z, you know, fighting aliens and all this craziness, and then you have something, while it's still fantastical, it's somewhat more grounded to reality with characters that are more grounded to reality with Cowboy Bebop. Yes,
exactly. And like again, there was nothing like it at the time. Like it was one of a kind, and it was one of the only animes that like made it to the West that was also something that wasn't, you know, for kids dubbed over it with some BS, or you know, it was able to like stay its own thing. Like it wasn't tainted by like a trying to kidify it or what. Yeah. So I think when you take all that into consideration, you know, and plus it was airing on Adult Swim. I like all that kind of rolled together. It's no wonder, honestly, why like the show has like persevered for like fans like me all this time.
Yeah, and because we're not trying to follow a format right now, we'll get to what I watched in a minute, because it's actually a pretty good segue into one of the topics that we have for the show for today's episode. There's been Outrage. Now, last week, most people that watch know that we covered that there's, you know, the Cowboy Bebop live action is in production. Actually, I've heard that there's been actual castings for some of the actors, which is interesting. But the big talk of the town is that there is some outrage going on from that article. Now, when we read it, we kind of didn't think much of it, but apparently some people are very offended and just overall pissed off at the fact that there's some changes that is going to be made to Cowboy Bebop for the adaptation of the toning down on the smoking, the changing of the wardrobe. I think which character they said it was for Faye, I think it was. They
Faye
said
Valentine. Yeah.
And people are actually really pissed off about that. They're saying that they're trying to I guess make it a little more toned down, and that it's not going to have that same grittiness. Now, for me, looking at it, I'll say the smoking, I don't really like. They said she's going to smoke, the characters are going to smoke, whatever. They're just toning it down a little bit. That's not really an issue for me per se. It's like I don't want to advocate for that anyway. I'm glad that they're not going to be pushing that into the forefront. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a trait of the characters and shit, but it's not like what is that anime? The anime I told you, No Guns Life, where the guy, like, it's integral to the plot to the point where there's a whole episode about him trying to get his brand of cigarettes. So that's not, in my opinion.
It's not like that, you know. Like it's just something that the characters do because it fits, you know. It fits the mood and the tone and the aesthetic. But is it like essential? Does it have to be there all the time? Not no, and it's not like the characters were obsessively smoking, like, you know, every single frame, you know, like
can't put the cigarettes down or some shit.
Like Spike is like shooting some guy in the face and he's like smoking at the same time. He's like,
I can't help
it. It wasn't like that. So, you know, if they want to tone it down some more, whatever, it's not a big deal.
The wardrobe thing is where I could see maybe it'd be a little problematic, just because why are they changing the wardrobe, and how much of a change is it going to be? Like, is it because they feel like she's too provocative dressed and they want to kind of, you know, put a turtleneck on her? If that's the case, then that is somewhat problematic, and I can see people's outrage over that is like, you know, just let the character be. Like, I know you said last episode you felt like it was kind of a complex outfit to begin with, so it'd be better anyway to change it. But if it's for the sake of changing it just to have her dressed up more because she's too provocative, I think that's a little stupid, because Cowboy Bebop itself and the tone of the show lends itself to be a little bit risque. I don't, it's not like she was walking around butt ass naked in a thong the whole freaking show or something like that, you know?
No, I mean, yeah, she showed some skin, but like, it makes sense for her character because she's a femme fatale, right? Like, that's, I mean, to be more specific, she tries to come off as a femme fatale, but she's actually a dork. Like, that's like, you know, that's what makes her character interesting, that she's not a stereotypical femme fatale, but that's what she's trying to do. You know, that's the facade that she tries to put up. And she, you know, half of that is her outfit. But like I mentioned before, her outfit is kind of weird in that, like, yes, it's very sexy and, you know, provocative and whatever, but like, she's also has like a sweater that's constantly like hanging around her elbows or whatever, like, you know, weird shit like that. Like, it works for the aesthetic in the anime because she's a drawing and, you know, it just works. But for an actual human being to like, hey, let me just have this like red sweater constantly dangling around my elbows, like, it's gonna look fucking stupid in live action.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't feel any outrage as long, and I'm just specifically, because I didn't see everybody's exact complaints. As far as those two changes go, it's not that big of a deal, so long as they're not changing the main parts, so like who the characters are, big plot point elements, if this is a true adaptation and not just borrowing the characters for a whole different story. Like, as long as they stay true to, for the most part, the story, the tone, the characters themselves and shit like that, I'm gonna be fine with it. Just you know, just don't stray too far away. And I don't think those two elements in particular are, you know, just completely changing up the board, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and when it comes to adapting something or remaking something or whatever, you always have to expect some level of change. I mean, look at the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, they changed a lot in it, and, you know, as much as I love the original, I have to admit that there were a good number of changes that were for the better. Like, I actually thought that there were some things that were, you know, in the remake that were better than the original. Now, I still prefer the original. I think the original is a classic. But I can't deny that there was some stuff in the remake where I was like, I liked how they did that better, you know? And sometimes change is necessary. And again, it's important to remember that Bebop was an anime. And, you know, there were a lot of things you could do in an anime that, because it's a drawing, that you can't replicate in live action without it either, you know, blowing the budget like completely out of proportion, or it just does not work in live action. Just because, you know, like, that's just the way it is, and they have to make some changes to accommodate that. And I think we need to be more understanding. Now, again, if they betray the spirit and the soul of Bebop, then we got a problem. But we shouldn't be fighting over like nitpicky stuff, right? Like, we should wait and see when the show comes out and see if it's true to the soul of Bebop, first and foremost.
Yeah, because, like, don't get it twisted. If that first episode of that first season, shall I say, because it's Netflix, so they'll probably drop, like, you know, 8 to 12 straight away. If that first season is just like, shit, we're going to call it for what it is. We're not going to just, you know, give kid gloves to it. Like, if it's trash, if they betrayed it, if it's not good, we're going to let them have it.
Yeah, I mean, if I see some bullshit like Spike's just scratching his nuts and he has a tattoo of Big Chungus on his butt cheek or some crap, you know, I ain't gonna be happy.
Oh shit, he just like does the electric slide every 5 seconds and starts humming tunes and shit like just a totally different dude. And he
This is
has
like not even the same guy. Like,
he has like a fucking Scottish accent or some shit. I'll be like, yo, what the fuck? Oh shit.
that'd be some shit.
Well, okay, so Cowboy Bebop, you jumped in. There's the live action, some Outrage there. On my end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
one of the things that I watched this week, because I watched a few different things, my Tower of God weekly episode. I love that anime. That shit is awesome. Cool. But I rewatched the Bleach Hellverse film. I want to say that's the fourth Bleach film. I think that was the final one that they released. Honestly, it's not my favorite. It's a pretty enjoyable film. My favorite more so is the Rukia one, Fade to Black. But it was enjoyable, and honestly, it got me excited again for like whenever the anime returns. Like, you know, the visuals was great. It brings me even back to that time. I remember when the movie came out and the Bleach Soul Resurrection game dropped around the same time, and I had a pretty good time with it. I mean, for what it was worth. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like, you know, it was a film, and at the time they still weren't getting to where like these Shonen Jump films are at now. Because like now, what they do is usually a movie from like a Shonen Jump title, like let's just say the latest One Piece film or things like that. It kind of takes place somewhere where like the manga's at right now, so it almost feels like, even though it might not exactly fit, it feels like it could be canonical to the story that's playing out right now from the source material in the manga, the anime, so it gives you that vibe. At that time, they still weren't really getting to that level yet, so it kind of felt like it could be placed really anywhere. You might be able to squeeze it somewhere, but it didn't feel like, oh shit, this feels like it's canon, or you know, it fits close to where we're at right now. So it didn't have that feel to it, but you know, it was delivering a lot of the things that you love from Bleach. Some crazy, insane fights, dope OSTs, you know, awesome animation, and you know, it was a rescue arc. It was Ichigo rescuing one of his sisters, but it was pretty enjoyable. And again, you know, I'm just hyped because, you know, 1,000 Year Blood War anime, I think it drops next year. But it also did remind me, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it, because Shintai has actually seen some of Bleach. He's seen quite a bit of Bleach actually back in the day.
Good ass chunk.
I wanted to kind of dive into, because there was a certain point where Shintai kind of just stopped and Bleach lost him, and I wanted to kind of dive into that and see why it was, and what happened, and what could have prevented that, and things of that nature. So give us a little bit of insight into that time in your life, Shintai, of what was going on and what happened.
So I first got into Bleach, I want to say in high school.
Wow.
I remember they were playing it on Adult Swim, and I think I may have been like a senior, so you know, pretty late in the high school, and I remember it being really cool. You know, I remember describing it as, okay, this is like Dragon Ball Z but with swords.
Yeah,
like that's how it
a lot
felt
of people
to me
called it that. Yep.
That's how it felt to me at the time, and I was like, hey, Dragon Ball Z is cool as shit. So swords are cool as shit. Put them together, like good stuff. So, and I remember really enjoying it. You know, the Soul Society arc, classic.
No, undeniable. Like, you could say whatever you want about Bleach. You could, you know, talk shit about some of the stuff with the Roncar, the Fullbring arc, all of that jazz. People could have their criticisms. One arc that I feel, for the most part, you really can't say too many bad things about is the Soul Society arc, especially the way the anime delivered that from top to bottom, from opening to a Bleach, like that freaking part of that series is classic. Classic shonen anime, like shonen anime at some of its best.
No, yeah, I still remember vividly like watching it and being super hyped to see Ichigo save Rukia, and like I think that was when there's, I think nobody's gonna fight me on this when I say like that was like one of like the peaks of Bleach, like just every episode, banger after banger. It was like, you know, you wanted to learn more about the Soul Society, you wanted to see more of the different officers, you wanted to see them, you know, bust out their bankais and see what they're about and see all their different abilities, and you know, it was like, I think what made it so fun to watch is like all the fights are cool, but what made them cool is that one, there was the mystery of each of the different officers, like what their deal was, what they were like, and then, you know, what their abilities were like. So it made all the encounters and all the fights feel unique. And I think that's a big part of what made that such a fun arc, was like it was constantly something new all the time.
Yeah, and in the middle of it, you had the mystery of Aizen, where that freaking iconic scene that he's there, from what we thought at the time, he's there pinned up dead to a wall, and it's like, who could have done this? What the hell is going on here? I mean, later on, we find out that this dude is a super freaking genius that planned Ichigo's life before he was born, but at that time, it was just freaking insane. It was nuts.
Yeah, that I didn't get to that part where we find out that he was planning his life. That's weird.
Yeah, no, he even foreshadowed it like hundreds of chapters, I want to say, before that actually gets revealed. He's like, I've planned everything since before you were born. And I remember at the time everybody's like, what the fuck, like this dude is just, now he's just chatting. And then we find out, like, no, he actually really, like, he had run-ins with Ichigo's father, Ishin. We find out, like, Ishin, like, there's just so much shit. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, because there's probably people that never...
So, like, when Ichigo was busting a nut, did fucking Aizen plan that too? He was like, ah!
Probably. It's like, all according to plan, fam. Oh,
see, he's busting a nut here. That means that, you know, he's gonna have a lower energy that day. So like,
yo, he planned the first time Ichigo fapped. He was like, yo, this magazine right there is gonna lead him to have his first wank. Like, he really went it. No. Oh shit, that would be deadly.
Yo.
Oh, so tell us, Shintai, where was it and why was it that Bleach lost you?
Okay, so I'm sure some people are going to say, oh, it must have been the Bounto arc. And it wasn't. I actually watched all of the Bounto arc. For some reason.
Yo, funny, quick funny story. And it was funny because you said something about you getting into Bleach at your senior year of high school. For my high school graduation, that was my first exposure to Bleach, because one of my gifts for graduating high school was a Bleach box set. It was the Bounce. That was what was the killer. And I remember at the time I was just so excited. I'm like, yes, because I used to go to Best Buy and look at like all the Bleach box sets, and at the time it was ridiculous, like $60 for the first 20 episodes, because it was like those premium box sets and shit like that. And I at the time I was just like, yo, I got some Bleach anime, this is gonna go crazy, I don't know where this starts, I don't care. In retrospect, like, damn, for my high school graduation I got the Bout arc. Oh shit.
Yo, that's
continue.
But yeah, so I actually did watch all of the Bounto arc, and it wasn't great because it's like a Garbo like filler arc, but I was like still into it. I was like, hey, you know, it's fine, even if it's not as good, you know, it's still Bleach, it's still fine. And then after that, it got back into the show proper. And I think, I want to say around this time is when I caught up with the show, because the timeline for me is a little wonky because it's been so long. But I want to say when I first started watching Bleach, that the show was already like, you know, 50, 60, 70 episodes, whatever. And So I had a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah,
So,
because Soul Society ends at 64.
okay. Because I distinctly remember, like, because it was a friend of mine that recommended it to me. And then, I told him, like, oh, yeah, I just watched, like, a bunch of episodes. I got up to, like, episode 20 or whatever, in one day. And he was like, damn, dude, how do you watch so many episodes in one day? Like, back in the day, I used to be, like...
Yeah.
I used to just, like, watch episodes like it was nothing.
Same here, bro. I used to, like, when you have all the time in the world, like, I remember when I was catching up with Naruto and I was watching every episode, I used to be just going crazy, like, oh my god, the Chunin exams, oh my god, who's this Jiraiya guy, the Raseng, like, I know, boy, I know.
I think back then we just had more energy and we were just like gobbling it all up.
Yeah. That's what she said. Oh shit.
But yeah, so at one point I did get to the point where like I was waiting for episodes weekly.
Yeah.
So, one of the last episodes I saw was I think Ichigo either. I don't know if he defeated him, but he fought Ukiura. And then there was like the big reveal that like Ukiura was only like number 4. And Ichigo was like so mad because he's like, what, man? There's like 3 dudes that are even more powerful than you are? What? He was like really angry about that.
Yeah, he went like nuts. But that fight was legendary. Like that's Ukiura fight, Grimmjow fight. There's some great fights in there. So you got through a nice chunk. That was pretty deep. I can't remember what episode that was at, but that was deep.
No, yeah, I don't remember what episode it was either. But right after that, there was another filler arc. And I think my mentality at the time was I could deal with the Bounto arc because I wasn't watching it weekly. I could get through it quickly. So it didn't bother me as much because I could just, okay, just watch episode after episode after episode. But when I reached another filler arc and I was caught up with the show and I'm watching it weekly, I was like, fuck this. I am not going to watch, weekly episodes of filler garbage. And I just, that's it. I was done.
I'll tell you this, and it's not even just about it being filler. One of the things that I've noticed that has happened to me time and time and time again, you kind of get burnt out on a series when you catch up and have to watch it weekly. You lose at the time, at the very least, until you spend time with it and you get used to it. When you are marathoning an anime, like I had this happen to me with One Piece. Like I watched, oh my gosh, like 500 plus episodes, countless chapters or whatever. And when I caught up in the Fishman Island arc, I remember I was just like, because prior to that, I was like, yo, One Piece is the greatest thing ever written. It is literally the greatest story ever told. Nobody could tell me otherwise. I was importing Blu-rays from Japan, buying wall scroll after wall scroll. Like, I was obsessed with One Piece. And, I still love One Piece to death. Don't get it twisted. But when I caught up with Fishman Island and I started having to wait every week for a chapter and an episode, I remember I was like, damn, this isn't as fun anymore. And that I think that's the curse. I think when you get to marathon something, but you eventually have to inevitably catch up, you start feeling like it's something there. I can't quite describe what it is, but you lose a little bit of oomph because you don't just have all of this material to keep on binging and binging. It's, I guess, like if you're like a drug addict and you have all these drugs, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, well, now you get one drug a week instead of 1,000 drugs a week, some shit like that. Like that's the best way to describe it when it comes to catching up, because I've had this happen so many times. And again, eventually, once you get used to just getting that chapter or an episode a week, you start to appreciate it and you start to fall in love with the series again and all of that jazz. But at the time, you will for a bit lose like that not love, but that obsession that you have with it. And maybe that's what happened to you with Bleach.
I think that's a fair point. And I think for me it's also It's something I've realized more over the years, and I don't think I could have articulated it at the time. But I think a big part of it is also the feeling of control, because when you have a bunch of episodes to watch, you have full control over how much of the show you watch at a time. But once you catch up, you are forced to watch it once a week. And
That's
I
a
think
very interesting perspective, to be honest with you. I've never thought about it that way. That's crazy.
because, like, for me, I like it when I have full control. I like it when I can plan things out and I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch 2, 3, 4, whatever episodes today, and then watch maybe 2 or 3 episodes tomorrow, and then, do more than that, whatever, because I feel like I'm in complete control of how I consume it. And once that control is taken away from me, I feel disengaged.
Yeah. Wow, that makes sense. Again, I never really looked at it from that angle, but yeah, because like that's one of the reasons why I'm more so of a TV anime guy than a movie guy. Like, I'll watch the shit out of episodes upon episodes, but with a movie, there's not really that break point where it's like, okay, because it's not formatted that way. You're basically like ideally supposed to just watch it straight through. But with an anime, it's like, okay, after 5 episodes of watching, I'm gonna put it down for the night and shit like that. So and that kind of makes sense. It's because you have the control to be able to stop at whatever amount of episodes. But with a movie, I gotta sit there and I gotta watch it all. If not, it's gonna feel like all flucked up because of the way I'm experiencing it with these breaks and shit like that. That's some great insight.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too, because TV shows are created so that you would take breaks in between. Movies are meant to be like, you're fucking there, you sit your ass down, like,
don't get up.
Oh, you need to go to the bathroom? Fuck you, piss your pants,
Shit, no, that makes sense. But that's crazy. I didn't think that you watched that much Bleach, to be honest with you. I thought you had stopped maybe like an arc after Soul Society and shit like that, but you actually went pretty deep. You went to Ukiura, which again, that was some great stuff in Bleach, man. Bleach had some great shit. I can't wait for the anime to come back. Like, I used to joke around a lot about Bleach, but there's nothing like, as far as anime and manga goes, there's next to nothing of an experience for me personally than when the big 3, Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, reigned supreme, and every week I had these 3 series to talk about it. Once Naruto ended and Bleach ended, it never felt the same. Shit, once Naruto ended, it never felt the same, and then when Bleach ended, it didn't feel the same. Like, One Piece is great or whatever, but that time in my life with those 3 manga marked a lot, and I'm excited to see the anime return and get that last hoorah with it. And there's also like a spin-off manga, so really dope stuff. Shout outs to Bleach. Can't freaking wait for the anime return. Any final words on this topic, Shintai, or should we move on?
I'll just say that, like, yeah, Bleach gets a lot of crap, but, like, aside from the filler, I remember really enjoying it, so can't be all that bad.
Yeah, shout out to Ichigo Kurosaki. Let's quickly breeze through this one because we got one topic that's going to take a little bit of chunk of time. I just want to address that Inuyasha and Kagome's voice actors announced on Twitter that they are returning to work for Inuyasha. They didn't say exactly for what Inuyasha related stuff. They just both confirmed that they're returning to work. So the whole theory of them being dead, it's still plausible, but I'm really, really interested now to see what their involvement is going to be in the sequel, considering that the voice actors both confirmed that they are returning in some way, and with this new anime coming out, more than likely it's for the sequel series. Any thoughts on that?
So this could be flashbacks, right? Like, this could be
yeah.
The characters are talking and being like, oh, remember when Inuyasha, my dad, or my mom, or whatever, they did this and that, and then it's like we see a flashback. Or it could be like a prologue episode, right? Where we see Inuyasha and Kagome, it's like 5-10 years in the past or whatever it is. And we see what happened, and maybe it shows them dying. And then, it flashes forward to what is currently going on in the spin-off series. So I think just because the voice actors are coming back, I don't think that necessarily confirms or denies, their characters being dead or not. But, I can definitely see why people would assume like, okay, they're not dead. They're definitely not dead. Like, well, no. They might be dead, and it might be the voice actors are coming back so that they can voice that part where you see them die. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
I just had this thought right now, because you gotta remember, Inuyasha's a demon, right? And like, he was trapped to that tree and he didn't age a day in like 50 years. But Kagome is a human, so if we see them and they are still alive, so is Kagome gonna be like a full-blown woman and Inuyasha's still looking like a teenager? That's gonna be weird.
Or even worse, like what if I mean, because how many years does this take place after the original?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think the amount of time has been revealed. We know that they have kids, and we know that I think all three of these children are 14. So at the very least, it'll be 14 years into the future. But that's assuming that as soon as the series wrapped up, Inuyasha said, "Yo, I'm going deep.
I'm going in."
So at least 14 years, I'm going to say maybe 20. Maybe like they had 6 years of journeying around, and then like they finally, Inuyasha's like, yo, I'm stamping my stamping you feel me?
Yep. So like, she's probably either 30 to 40 years old.
Yeah.
That is a weird thing to think about.
Yo, Inuyasha's
are we
probably
gonna...
like...
Dude, are we gonna see Kagome the MILF?
Hey, I mean, she's probably looking like a little more mature looking Kikyo at this point, because Kikyo was a bit older than Kagome, I want to say, and
that's
so
true. That's true.
She might have aged like fine wine, and Inuyasha's even more happy now. Like he was hitting it when it was at its prime, and now he's hitting it while it's at its prime time live.
Yo.
Inuyasha, yo, they embed in Kagome every time she wants to stop him from nutting. She says, "Sit, boy." Oh shit.
She can't do that though if she's a bottom.
Oh god. He's just gonna ram hard and sit, boy, bam. Oh shit, yo, that'd be priceless. I'm looking forward to this, man. You gotta check out at least an episode or two just to see what the hell is going on. I know you really don't rock with Inuyasha. You downright almost hate it, but you gotta give it a try, bro. You gotta.
I mean, once upon a time, I was a fan, so
in a feudal fairy tale. Oh shit!
It really feels that way. But yeah, okay, fine. I'll at least watch like 1, maybe 2 episodes, see what's up. But I'm not holding my breath that it's gonna be anything other than like a weird spin-off thing, cash grab. Like that's what I'm expecting. But maybe they'll surprise me. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm expecting like a somewhat type of Boruto, but I'm really not invested even remotely into the Inuyasha verse like I am into the Naruto verse. So I'm expecting even less, like times 1,000 of Boruto experience. I'm expecting like Boy Meets World has like a spin-off Girl Meets World. You know how they've been doing a lot of those old. I'm expecting like a Girl Meets World with this Inuyasha shit. Like that's what I'm expecting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually. That's probably what it's gonna be. Yeah.
Okay.
Not great.
Now, let's take it to our game show that the questions are varying, so we're gonna say I'm gonna steal a quote from Joe Budden's podcast that used to be called "We'll name that podcast later. We'll name this game show later. Let's get started."
Woo! All right, so it's my turn this time. All right.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Ooh.
All right, since we were talking about Bebop.
Oh boy.
Okay. So the question is, Cowboy Bebop ends every episode with a black screen and white text at the bottom right corner. Sometimes the text changes, but the majority of episodes ends with what tagline? Is it A, easy come, easy go? Is it B, see you, space cowboy? Is it C, you're gonna carry that weight? Or is it D, sometimes you just gotta lame it out?
Okay, shit. I'm pretty sure it's not C. What was C again?
C is you're gonna carry that weight.
For some reason, I'm pretty sure it's not C.
Okay. Well, let me read them back to you.
Okay.
So, A, easy come, easy go. B, see you, space cowboy. C, you're gonna carry that weight. And D, sometimes you just gotta lame it out.
Okay, it's not D. It's not D. I really feel strongly, and yeah, okay, I gotta go with, and this is my final answer, B. See you later, space cowboy.
You're right.
Hey! I just remember it from like a Toonami promo. That's what kept ringing in my mind. Like, cause Cowboy Bebop, I watched it, like I haven't seen, not 20 years like you, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, I remembered it from like a Toonami promo from like Steve Bloom and shit like that. So, hey!
Yeah. The thing is though, A and C, because I did say like sometimes the text changes.
Yeah.
And for some, there was an episode where it was easy come, easy go. And another episode, it was you're going to carry that weight.
But it was never D.
Never D. It was never D.
Sometimes you just gotta lame it out. Oh shit. Hey, I'm impressed with myself. Hey, I didn't get exposed, right, guys? People probably like, oh, Fornev's gonna get exposed. He don't know shit. No. You
did it. I'm proud of you.
Okay, let's just quickly chime in. We still got a little bit of time left. Let's chime in on, because it was just announced as of the recording of this podcast, the PS5. Quickly, thoughts on the look of it and some of the games that's being shown thus far. Impressive, yay, nay, what's going on here?
Okay. First of all, in terms of the look of the console, I have to say it looks like Seto Kaiba.
What?
Look at the picture that I linked to you in the chat.
Oh my god! I have to edit this image in when people see it so they can... Holy shit, it does look like Seto Kaiba. Yugi, I'm here. Where's the Pharaoh? I'm gonna kick his ass with some fucking cards. Oh shit, I'm done. The internet undefeated. Wow.
That's it.
I don't care really, to be honest with you, like how it looks. Like I'll be real. Like I feel as though this is a phase that, because everybody's like talking shit about it. They say it looks like a Wi-Fi router and shit like that. A year or two from now, nobody's even gonna say that anymore. So for me, I'm just like, as long as it's playing these incredibly well-looking games. I'm not sure if they're going to have Blu-ray capabilities on it, like 4K Blu-ray and shit like that, like playback, whatever. If it does, great. But yeah, as long as it plays the games, I don't really care about how the box looks. I mean, like, I guess some people are into that shit, but for me, I don't care.
No, yeah, I don't care either. Like it's whatever, you know, as long as it doesn't look like a dildo or something. Like, what, I don't care.
Oh God. Yeah. So here's where you put the games in.
It's like, hey, imagine, like, you know, like, hey guys, come over, let's play the dildo station.
I'm sure somebody somewhere in their basement sat around and made a freaking dildo PlayStation.
You can pleasure yourself while you pleasure yourself.
PlayStation. Oh shit. But
as for the games though that were showcased, obviously, graphically speaking, all of them looked amazing. All of them looked
Miles
great.
Morales.
Yes. Yeah, I was really happy about that. I beat the PS4 Spider-Man game that came out. I think it was like last year or before last year. Loved that game. Great game. Really fun. And they did foreshadow Miles Morales in that game. You meet him in that game and you help him out, and you play as him a little bit in it, like not with spider powers, but like there's like a mission or two where you have to like sneak around with him.
And that game was highly regarded, right? Like a lot of people said that that's arguably one of the best Spider-Man games ever made. It
was really, really damn good. And what's surprising is it wasn't just like a fun game to play. The story was really good. I think they actually hired some comic book writers, and that's why the story was like really, really good.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's like bringing in, you know, a mangaka for like a movie or some shit. That makes sense.
But it's not like following the story of like a specific comic strip or anything like that.
Oh, it's brand new.
It was a brand new story.
Oh, okay.
And what was really cool about it was that, you know how everything, it's like an origin story or whatever, and like we've seen Spider-Man's origin like 50 million times or whatever, and they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They were like, no, this is Spider-Man living in the current day, and he's been doing this for decades. Like this, like when you're going around town, people even say, oh, hey, what's up, Spider-Man? Like they, you know, because they're already used to Spider-Man. They already know, you know, his deal. Like, and you listen to a podcast with J. Jonah Jameson. Like,
yo,
he has
just
his
imagine,
own podcast.
Dude, imagine with the technological advancements that they have now, with what the PlayStation 5 is capable of, what can be done, the interactions from like just, you know, the NPCs in the game, shit like that. Like there's way more because of the new processor and the new power that this bad boy is going to have that can be done. If they were doing like, you know, the people interacting like, hey, Spider-Man and shit like that on the PS4, imagine what the hell we're going to get with the PS5.
No, yeah, they could take it to the next level for sure. So I'm really looking forward to the new game because the original was really fucking good, and like they can only go up.
Yep.
But the game, for me, the games that like aside from Miles Morales that really piqued my interest was Resident Evil 8. That looks fucking awesome.
It's hopefully they've learned from their mistakes with like what was it, 5 and 6. Did I play 7? I don't even think I ever played 7 now that I think about it. I think last one I played was 6, and like 6
was garbage.
Yeah, like there was I think you could play with Leon at a certain point in 6, right?
Yes.
And I had fun with that. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was playing co-op with a friend at the time or whatever, and I had a blast with it. But in retrospect, as far as a game itself, especially 5 was just, I don't even know what the fuck they went with. Like they turned Resident Evil into like Gears of War with 5.
Yeah, but then with 7, they were like, okay, this is supposed to be a horror game franchise, right? So they were like, okay, let's make it scary. And I really liked 7 because of that. 7 was actually really fun.
Was 7 the one that it was released right around the VR became a thing? And
yes.
Okay,
yes,
so I did play. I played it with the VR a little bit, but I could never mess with VR because it gives me a migraine. But I did play 7, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, 7 was really good. I really enjoyed it. So it's like, it looks like they're going to like keep going with what they did with 7 and kind of like refine it and make it better.
Hey Capcom, can we get a Code Veronica? Just saying, a Code Veronica remake. Oh,
well, they I mean, they already confirmed a remake of 4.
Which feels unnecessary. I mean,
It does, but if they've remade 2 and 3 and they're gonna do 4, I mean, I don't think Code Veronica's like out of the question, you know?
And with the PS5 right around the corner, how long until they, like, so people that just bought those remakes are gonna have to eventually buy them again, unless, like, because I don't know what's the play on backwards compatibility with the PS5. So looks like people that bought those remakes, if they want to play them on the new console, are probably gonna have to double dip on it, which that's the shitty situation with every time a new console comes out.
No, I think they said that PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with PS4.
What about the other ones, PS3, 2, and 1? Any word on that?
I don't think so. I don't know if they've confirmed anything, though. I don't think they've said anything definitively.
Is that definitive? Like, that's 100% confirmed that it's backwards compatible with PS4, or?
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Oh my gosh, that's... what do you think about... Because, for me, just games-wise, like, the Spider-Man game looked great. There was this other game. I'll try and edit in the images of what I'm talking about. It looked like anime-based. I don't even know. It was like particles flying, like this giant white-looking demon thing. Like, it looked freaking insane. So, the games look great. The stream, stupid choice to stream it in 1080 from the streams I saw anyway. It's like, aren't these supposed to be like 4K? You want to get the hype up while you streaming in 1080? That was stupid. But the rumored price point, because there was a UK Amazon listing, and I don't know if it's still listed or not, but it translated to an equivalent of $765. So people are saying that it's possible. Yeah, people are saying it's possible for it to drop at $800. Thoughts on that?
Fuck that.
that's a PC right there.
Yeah, and a PC also lets me do my taxes, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh,
like,
shit.
Come on, man. I'm not gonna put down 800 bones for a freaking game console. Like, come on.
It's not confirmed yet, but that was what's been going on. Like, last night, everybody was going nuts on it. I even was like, yo, that's a bit extreme, especially like, yo, we just went through a crazy situation, the whole world. Do you think everybody's just got $800 to just fling for a box?
Yeah, just lying around.
Like, yo, no. they tripping. Like, I see, like, at most it should be about $550. 600 is I feel pushing it, but if it is 600, anything over 600, no, get out of here.
No, yeah, anything over 600 is ridiculous. Ideally, it should be just like the PS4. The PS4, I believe, retailed at 400. 400 is perfect price point.
Yeah. And what is the new what is the new Xbox? Is it Series X? I don't even fucking know anymore.
Yeah, that's what it's called. The Xbox Series X, the most weirdest mouthful of a game console I've ever heard.
And what's the price point on that?
I don't know.
Because I think the price point on that is like about $500, $499 if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm excited for the PS5, so long as the price isn't outrageous. Like, this is where they lost the console war back with the PS3. Remember the PS3 when it first dropped? It was, what was it, like $600?
600.
Yeah,
600.
And it wasn't until the end of the console's life cycle that Sony finally, I think, surpassed Microsoft. And then in the PS4, they learned the error of their ways. And at the time, Microsoft was trying to do all those, what is it called? DRM? You know,
DRM.
To borrow games, all that stupid shit. Also, there's two versions of the PS5, actually. There's the digital version and the disc version. Which one would you be going for? To be honest with you, I more so want the disc version just because I'm not a big fan of getting digital still. Like, when it comes to, at the very least, video games, like, I feel like some shit happens to my account or some shit happens to my, my machine, and I feel like I'm screwed out of all these games.
No, I still want the disc version as well. Plus, I mean, if it's backwards compatible with the PS4,
yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna need the disc version if I want to play all my PS4 games.
Yeah, GameStop's gonna take a major hit if that digital version takes off and people just like really go with that, because I don't see them surviving after this.
What I'm assuming is going to happen is so they're going to release disc version, digital version. And I bet you the digital version is going to be a little bit cheaper because they don't have to put in the extra parts. And I think just because of that, the digital version is what's going to take off.
That's going to be interesting. I wonder, like, can you buy... I'm assuming you'd still be able to buy digital on the disc version, right?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, will I still be able to buy digital games on if I have the disc version, or are they going to make it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, because that'd be silly.
No, yeah, I don't, because that's how it is now, right? Like every PS4 has a disc drive, but you can still download.
You never
games.
know with these companies, you know. Like I gotta constantly go back to what they were trying to do with Xbox last generation and how ridiculous. And if it wasn't for the consumers fighting back right now, that would be a standard practice.
I hear you, but I don't think Sony is that dumb. I think the backlash, if they made it so that you could only play disc games on one console and you can only play digital games on the other console, I mean, well, you can only play digital on the other one anyways. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
If they're locked like that, the backlash would be so hellacious.
And the money they would lose too,
you know,
because like people buying the disc version doesn't mean that they don't want to buy digital. They just want to be able to buy discs as well.
Right. So they'd just be losing out money if they did that. It would just be such a boneheaded decision.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, that was the episode. We covered quite a bit in this one. We shook it up a little bit. We talked about some music. We talked about some video games, of course, anime. Any final thoughts for this week's episode of the pod, Shintai?
Go listen to Black Parade. What a great album. Holy crap.
Yeah, you should go finish Bleach and Inuyasha. No? I don't know about the Inuyasha part. Maybe Bleach. I don't know about Inuyasha.
I'm gonna finish Bebop. That's what I'm doing.
Oh shit. My final thoughts of this is, like always, people, have an awesome day. Hope you have an awesome week. Thank you to everybody that's been supporting. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the podcast, and we're gonna just keep on strutting our stuff and doing our best to deliver some high quality content. I'm having a blast with this, and as long as I'm having a blast and Shintai is having a blast, we hope you keep having a blast with us, because we're gonna keep doing this. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome day, people. See ya.
Peace.